And we are super excited to welcome Josh and Rebecca Tickell here. I think this is their fourth or fifth, right? Fifth time, sixth. None of us can agree. Their sixth time. They've always been here with an award-winning documentary. And tonight is their first foray into a narrative feature film. And I'm going to let them tell you why they selected specifically Sedona for this incredible honor. Give it up, Josh and Rebecca Tickell.
Thank you, Pat. Awesome. Step out a bit. So it's super exciting to be back here. Our first time in Sedona was in 2008, as a matter of fact. And we fell in love with this place and with the community. And the experience of showing a film here, I think it's the vortexes. It's just so cool. And so, you know, when we were cutting that ribbon, that's a lot like how we make film. We just hope that that cut is the right cut, and then we make that cut. And so tonight, you're seeing our first feature film, our first scripted film, as our community, our extended community here in Sedona. We wanted to share this with you before anybody else has seen it. So this is before the premiere even.
And also, much like the alcohol in the lobby, this is also a test program. And so this is definitely the largest test screening we've ever had. And the film is not finished. So we're still working on the sound and the color and some things that you'll see. In fact, Darius and Grace just flew in with the film, and they were up all night working on it. Why don't you raise your hand? So if there's something wrong with the film, you can go talk to them. And we also have with us some of our incredible cast that's in the film, as well as somebody who we based one of the characters on in the film. And so they'll be joining us afterward for a Q&A. We're very honored to have them here with us. And we're really excited, you know, that we wrote this, we directed it, and we produced it. You might even see me in it for a minute. But it really is such a labor of love by so many people. I mean, we had hundreds and hundreds of people work on this film, and so it's on behalf of all of them that we're here sharing this with you tonight, and we're so happy to be in Sedona. We love Sedona. Thank you so much for letting us be here.
Yeah. Thank you. So stay for the Q&A. Definitely plan to stay for the Q&A, and after we will be in the lobby. Mariel and Bobby will be signing books. I'll sign a couple of books. We'll take some photos, and we'll reunite with some of our dear, dear friends who we get to see just once a year here in Sedona. Thank you for having us again.
Josh and Rebecca Tickell, thank you so much. I know they're also super nervous about this, so we're going to show them some Sedona love, and I know we're going to love the film. So we're going to, after the film, we're going to assemble the Azadi. Notice the beautiful Azadi rug. They now have furniture. We're going to bring a nice set of furniture out here, have a great conversation, led by Billy Harfosh from iHeartRadio. He's going to be here, and he's going to be hosting and moderating the conversation. I'm going to be out in the audience with the microphone. You are in for such a treat on a very special opening night. Ladies and gentlemen, we are proud to present the sneak preview of Heartland. Enjoy the show. What a powerful story. Powerful and important story. I'd like to welcome Josh and Rebecca Tickell while we assemble the Azadi beautiful living room from Azadi Fine Rugs while we're hosting our Q&A. I'd love to have Rebecca and Josh come on up, and Billy Harfosh from iHeartRadio, who's going to be, I'm going to let you introduce the guests you're bringing up. Is that okay?
Yes. We would love to have Mariel join us on stage, Mariel Hemingway, David Arquette, Danny Sheehan, the real-life attorney that we based, who represents the
Lakota People's Law Project. We'd like Mark Sims, our executive producer, to join us. Che Jim, who's in the movie. Darius Fisher, our online editor.
I would love to actually ask y'all a question first. In one word, or in one brief sentence, what did you get from watching the film? And if you could just raise your hand and stand up and say it out loud. Yes. So he said, as an activist, it's a very real depiction of what it's like to be caught in the middle of something like this. Yes. Anyone else? Yes. Anger. Over here. Compassion. Yes. Pardon? The arrogance of the American government. Yeah. Yeah. Mourning for life. Yes. Do I see any? Oh, yes. Heavy medicine. Indeed, I think we all could relate to that one. One last one. Yes. Deeply moving. Awesome. Thank you so much for the
Awesome.
feedback.
Well, what a wonderful film. Thank you so much. It's so important. It's so important. It's a great story to share that you educated all of us. So one more time. So my name is Billy Harfosh. I'm from iHeartRadio in Phoenix. And just to kick it off, we've got a lot of microphones up here. Just to kick it off, I'd like to start with Rebecca and Josh really quick. I was just curious, talk about the decision-making process to tackle such an important topic and difficult topic.
Well, I promise you, our next film is a comedy. This is something that, it was something that actually happened. So much of the film is based on actual transcripts, real-life events. The conversation with the attorney is based on an interview that I did with Danny in his hotel room. So a lot of the film is very grounded in what actually happened. And we're environmentalists. We've made a number of films about the environment. We've made films with Mariel, and this is our first film, but not our last, hopefully with David. And when Standing Rock happened, so many people came and said, well, you guys are environmentalists. What's going on? What should we do? And it was really because of Rebecca that I happened to go to Standing Rock for a week and volunteer as a journalist there and met many incredible people. While I didn't meet Che at Standing Rock, we met later, and it was just this incredible community. And I think for the people who experienced it, whether you experienced it on Facebook, through the news media, or you experienced it firsthand, or you know somebody who was deeply involved, it was a forever changing event.
And obviously, Rebecca, the other side of that, the other difficult topic is PTSD. How much did you interview or collaborate with people that are currently going through that?
Is this one where? Oh, okay. Hello. We definitely did our fair share of research on PTSD. I think for us, really, my dad, he lives in Ohio, and he's a, Trump-loving, conservative middle American. And I think it's hard for people to really understand, we're just so divided right now. And I think culturally we have PTSD. And I think that there's a lot of incompletion, obviously, on everybody's part. So this is really about, I think we're all supposed to relate to Dan. I mean, it wasn't our story to tell the Standing Rock story, but we could tell the Wasichu perspective, which is really what we were trying to do. So we're trying to have this connection that we all have, which is this shared trauma, be told with the story. And as an interesting side note, I was actually 9 months pregnant when Josh went to Standing Rock. And I really wanted to go, but I was asked to not come. So that was.
She was really angry that I didn't return her phone messages.
Well,
It's
listen,
true.
ladies and gentlemen, we have some of the best talent in film right now on stage. So I'm going to open it up to the audience. Just raise your hand if you have a question, and Pat will find you with a microphone.
And I'd like to tell them you can all sit down and be comfortable. We have a lovely living room for you there. Compliments of Azadi. Please sit down.
Yeah, I'll sit on your
You'll
lap.
look much more comfortable.
My question is for Mr. Jim.
Question is to who?
Mr. Jim.
Okay.
And it was, what is it that caused you to, should I? Okay. what caused you to trust these particular filmmakers with your story, or with this incident and history?
Honestly, when I first heard about the film, like any actor, I went and I did my homework. I wanted to find out who they were and their expertise, and maybe look at some previous films that they had and stuff like that. And in doing so, I saw a lot of the genuine emotion and their care for the earth. In regards to obviously Standing Rock and any type of indigenous environmental movement, that is the center, is our love and our compassion for Mother Earth. And so when I saw that how they were telling their stories and the work that they have done previous, it was kind of they'd already had my trust at that point. I mean, obviously to a degree, there are still some things there, obviously, but for the most part, I was very interested. And upon meeting them and meeting and looking at the script over a few times, I felt comfortable enough to do that. So,
Well, raise your hand and I'll come to you the microphone. I'll be right over there. Talk to us about the casting. How did you cast the film? Because you got wonderful, wonderful actors, present company included. Frances Fisher, who was supposed to be here, came down with a very bad case of bronchitis, and her doctor would not let her fly. But you have a really wonderful, remarkable cast. The wonderful David Arquette, of course, and Mariel Hemingway. How did you cast all of them in Frances? With this powerful story?
We wrote the script with certain people in mind, and then we just really wanted talented. I mean, this was our first time directing a scripted film that we had written and producing it. So we really wanted talented people that we could count on to sort of help us through this process. And also, Che gave the most amazing audition. I mean, I still remember it. It was so powerful. I mean, it just pierced through both of our souls when we saw it. And we were really clear that we wanted to have real activists. We wanted to have people that were actually at Standing Rock there. We wanted to have, real Lakota people as a part of this. Like, we wanted it to be as authentic as we could make it for our tiny budget. And, and also Mariel, David, like Frances, they're activists. Like, these are people that deeply care in their hearts about these issues, and we felt could represent this on screen in a way that would do justice to the topic that it was about.
And just flipping the question, I guess, why did, Mariel and David, why did you say yes to our crazy, overambitious, first-time, underfunded, activist, documentary-style film?
Well, I've worked with you and been friends for a long time, and I always feel that your sense of awareness of what's going on in the world touches on not just maybe the question of the Sioux Indians or the pipeline, but it touches on the question of oil and things that you've dealt with a lot. For me, the question of PTSD is so strong because mental health is a big passion of mine to bring understanding to people about, and I think PTSD is undertreated and understood, and I think that you dealing with that in regard to an issue that is bigger is, I think everything is intertwined. And I have to say one thing. I laughed when he was putting mud all over himself. Did that come from the Clint Ober story of when he was a child? Because when he was putting mud on himself in the Indian fashion of, really grounding and the earth healing you, I thought that was wonderful. So thank you. I had not seen the film till just now. So.
How did you like it?
Yeah,
I loved it. I
Not to put you on the spot.
I have notes. No, I think it's wonderful. And towards the end, it comes full circle. And I do believe that there's I think you're artists, and I think you paint pictures, and it's beautiful what you painted. So thank you.
Yeah, you guys are artists and activists, and I wanted to, just be a part of it and help you go. Oh, it's mine. That's the bad one. So I just wanted to help you. I love first-time directors, and not that you guys are first-time because you've done so many documentaries, but I don't. There's always something magical about that experience. Also, I went to the illiterate lizard outside, and I got the book Strange Hollywood, so I'll be signing this in the lobby.
More questions from the audience out there?
Yes, thank you. First of all, thank you for the healing for all of us. I really feel the healing from this film. And I want to just ask what's happening with the Dakota Pipeline. It has been taken out of the news. Can you give us a quick summary of where it is? Has there been spills? What's going on?
That's a great question. Who can give us an update on what's going on right now?
Okay, yeah, I'm Danny Sheehan. I'm the lawyer for the Lakota People's Law Office that was there for, I spent 18 months there in many times in 40 degree below zero weather with 40, 50 mile an hour winds blowing, and that the Lakota people were initiating the stand against this pipeline because, as you heard, this has been prophesized in their Lakota culture for many, many years, that there would come a time of the dark snake, the black snake would come into their land, and it would be the initiating event of a very, very, very bad time for the entire Turtle Island, which is what we're experiencing now. That the instability, the economic potential upheaval. J.P. Morgan just issued they just got their hands on a major secret report internal to the J.P. Morgan investment clients, that the economy now that is still rooted in having the United States become the #1 exporter of oil in the entire world, while 193 nations are attempting to try to stop the spread of the fossil fuels on the planet. The Dakota Access Pipeline is now pumping 910,000 gallons per hour of petroleum oil coming out of the Bakken oil fields, coming right straight through the heart of Turtle Island, down to the Gulf Coast, where every drop of it is being exported out into the world. So all the arguments about this having been undertaken to solve an energy crisis here in the United States is a complete and absolute lie. But right now, as you heard in the movie, the federal court in Washington, D.C., just kept authorizing the pipeline to continue building, to continue building, to continue building. And when the effort was made to get a temporary restraining order to try to maintain the status quo ante before the pipeline could go forward, the judge allowed it to go forward. The judge was actually a member in his private capacity in an all-white male lawyers club that is made up totally of lawyers who defend corporate criminals. And he was the judge on the case and just allowed the pipeline to continue forward. Now the Keystone XL tar sands pipeline is attempting to be built from central Canada down through the Great Sioux Nation again. And it's crossing over several of the tributaries that lead into the Missouri River. And they're attempting to go forward. I've been retained by the Oglala Sioux Nation to help them stop the Keystone pipeline. And we need everybody's help to participate in this. I've been attempting to, for example, get the local Catholic Church and religious communities to provide a site where the grandmothers, the Lakota grandmothers, could come and set up a spiritual vigil to oversee the effort to stop the pipeline. So there's the Keystone pipeline is going forward still and pumping oil. The Keystone pipeline has not come into the Great Sioux Nation yet, but they're laying out the pipe on the grounds. They're cutting down the trees. They're spraying the areas. They're setting up the man camps. The man camps, as was touched on in the film, is a source of grim repercussions throughout the state, where Dozens and dozens of Native American women are disappearing and being found murdered, and they're being lured into these camps with drugs and money. It's a microcosm of something going wrong in our country because we had the pipeline stopped. We had the pipeline stopped under the Obama administration. And when Donald Trump was elected, the first day in office is when he issued the executive order banning all Muslim people from coming into the country. The second day in office, he ordered the going forward of the Dakota Access Pipeline and the Keystone XL pipeline, no matter what environmental rules were being violated. He argued that it was a matter of national security for the United States because we were in an oil crisis. And then very quickly after that, just bragged about the fact that now we were the #1 exporter of oil in the world. This type of duplicity, this type of active deception is now being made obvious to everybody, even in this audience. It's been obvious to the Lakota people for 150 years. They've lived with that type of deception, that type of violation of fundamental rights of people. And hopefully this movie will begin to show how that's happened. It's important to remember that Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren have both announced that if they're elected, either one of them or potentially both of them in an administration, that they will order the revocation of the easements for the Dakota Access Pipeline, and they will in fact order that the pipeline be shut down and dug up and removed from the Great Sioux Nation. And we all wait and pray for the day when the Lakota people will be able to hold the ceremony drumming the great black snake out of the Great Sioux Nation. And we hope that you will all be there with us when that happens.
Awesome. Okay, we have another question right here in the middle. Yes, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Hi. First of all, what? Okay. I want to thank the directors, writers, producers for putting this out. We need more films like this so more people become aware of what's going on, the truth. But I'm a little confused because I thought it was based on a true story, but it's a compilation. But how did you get the story about Dan? Did you meet several of the veterans who were there and put their story together?
Yes, in essence, yes.
Plus my dad and the veterans that we know. Maybe a little teeny bit of Josh, but
You're from Lancaster, Ohio?
I am.
I've been there many times. Ohio.
Yeah, Dan's story is a reflection of transcripts from interviews that we did at Standing Rock, and not being able to tell the numerous stories, we amalgamated them into one person. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you had a cast of hundreds here. It was a very sophisticated movie, and it was filmed in Ohio. Did you get funding from the Ohio Film Department? And what kind of a budget did you have for this film, if I might ask?
Our budget was just over $1 million. And we filmed it in Ohio because my dad has 1,000 acres of cornfields in Ohio. And so often when you saw people sneezing and stuff, it's because of all the Roundup that's used. Sorry, Mariel. But and Ohio does offer a tax credit. We haven't, we're still working on that, and that may not come to fruition. But essentially, if we had tried to film this in North Dakota, it would have been very challenging for us. When we wanted to shut down a street, it was shut down immediately. When we needed to have the sheriff's department, they were in the film. If we needed a SWAT vehicle, they came and they had the big satellite on the top. If we needed a fire truck, they were there with the hose. It was a very different environment. We were the first film ever shot in Lancaster, Ohio, I think since like 1930 or something like that. So, the whole town took a lot of pride in it, and it was very fascinating when we would talk to the police officers. We're like, what is this film about exactly? But we're gonna have a big premiere in Lancaster too.
We kind of had the opposite experience with the police and security forces in North Dakota. So that's part of why we didn't film there. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you for this important message, but when will it be released? Before the elections? And
Yes,
how
that was
soon?
my question too. Like, what is the plan to release this? And it seems like it kind of needs to be timely.
Muriel, do you want to talk about the distribution plan?
No, I'll wait.
Okay. I was joking. None of us had seen the film until you saw it. There literally was not a movie until
What time did you export it, Darius?
this morning.
This morning.
Yeah.
So it's not done yet.
So the distribution plan isn't quite solidified. We have another film that's premiering at Tribeca called Kiss the Ground. And we promise to bring that here. It's beautiful.
Which
film.
we saw here last year.
You saw the short.
We saw the short of
the
it,
short.
right? Yeah,
Yep.
Yes,
which
not
is
the
awesome. And you're doing the feature. And yes, word to other filmmakers who might be in the audience: don't stress out a film festival director by bringing your film 1 hour before we show it.
Yeah.
And also thank you for your patience with the technical export, the technical difficulty with this export. We really appreciate.
Yeah. The imperfection. So to answer the question a long way, we hope that the interest in Kiss the Ground will bring interest in this film, and we'll be able to have them both out during this important year.
I'd like to add one more thing, that there was just a few moments in the film where they touched upon the private security company being brought in by the pipeline corporation. Number one, the Energy Transfer Partners, that is the conglomerate of oil corporations that have put in the pipeline. One of the partners was Donald Trump and Rick Perry, his Secretary of Energy. We're both partners in that. And the corporation, the private security company that they brought in is called the Swan Private Military Corporation. It is a spinoff of Blackwater International. It was organized in the Middle East it's made up completely of United States Special Forces. The founder of Swan Private Military Corporation is a man who was the director of anti-terrorist operations worldwide for Blackwater International. And he, prior to that time, had been the liaison between the United States Central Intelligence Agency and the Joint Special Operations Command of the United States Pentagon in Afghanistan and Iraq. And the note was made of the sheriff reading from bullet points that had been drafted for him. Those were drafted by the private public relations company that was actually hired by George W. Bush to promulgate the theory of weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. So that it's important to understand that this Swan Private Military Corporation is the first of the Special Forces private military corporations that has been deployed now inside the United States for the first time. And that was what one of the major issues was at Standing Rock. And it's extraordinarily important for us to understand what it is that's coming here. The effort on the part of the privately owned corporations running the oil corporations is directly in the face of global climate change. And they're intending to bring in full-scale military forces to crush the opposition of the people of the world to stop the fossil fuel industry. So that this is an extraordinarily serious problem, a public policy problem that all of you should pay attention to and find out everything that you can about the Swan Private Military Corporation, made up all of U.S. Special Forces, and the command structure of it is all United States Special Forces, and it is a mechanism that is designed to get around the federal law that prohibits the deployment of U.S. military forces inside the United States to be deployed against private citizens. And this is a mechanism by means of which they're getting around this. And I hope that this movie will help shed light on that as well.
Okay. So Muriel actually has a question.
I have a question for you. So in the film, which I just seen. When you talk about the Constitution,
Yeah.
and you say that it's our forefathers wanted the Indians to have their land, the
That's right.
natives to have their land.
That's right.
What is the argument, or what happens when that is the law, when that is in the Constitution? What happens? Why is that never brought up? Why, or what happens to that argument?
What happens to the argument is people like William Barr, and who come into positions of authority inside the Justice Department, et cetera, that completely disregard the law. And you have an entire Republican Party now in the United States Senate that completely disregards the law. And that happens at important times in history, when there are powerful economic forces that are attempting to get their way with the American government. They tend to deploy millions of dollars into paying for the elections of elected representatives, et cetera. That has happened with the Native American treaties. That the whole effort to push forward under manifest destiny and the white man's burden, the entire age of the robber barons that went on from the end of the American Civil War in 1868 all the way to 1898 with the McKinley administration, which is known as, of course, as you know, not only the robber baron era, but the age of American imperialism. That's taught even in the local high schools, that was that age. They keep pretending that it's over, you see. But what happened is that is the very element that reascended to the power inside the Republican Party right at the end of the Cold War. With the dissolution of the Soviet Union on December 31st of 1991, the entire extreme right-wing element in the Republican Party came forward and got back onto the same value system of the robber baron era. That's what we're looking at right now. We're seeing a recommitment to those same type of mercantile values, the kind of corporate elite governing the country. And that's what in law and order is the victim under those circumstances, just like it was during that entire era. And we're seeing that happening again. The entire challenge to law and order, constitutional principles, the right of the people to engage in self-governance, the arrogant disregard for law and constitutional principles in the face of major corporate power is the fundamental issue of our age. And the Native people have suffered from that historically. Now the whole country is in danger of suffering from that, with the consequences of global climate change and the absolute disregard for all of the interests of people throughout the world. They're going to be suffering from that.
I want to. I know we've got limited time, but we could, as the cameraman in the movie says, I could listen to you all day. I want to make sure we get one more question. Pat's giving me the watch.
One more in the back.
From Che.
Yes. First of all, thank you for bringing the movie to us and for all the information. Several years ago, Patrick and the Film Festival brought in a movie on John Paul DeGioia.
Yeah.
And being a hairstylist, I noticed that he's one of the producers. How did you manage to get him involved in the movie?
JP stood up at our premiere at Sundance in 2008 of Fuel, which we brought here and won, I think, at this festival in 2008 with that film. He stood up and he said, I think everyone in the world needs to see this movie. And that was about Fuel. I mean, we've been working on these issues for so long, and he has been a huge champion of our films, of our activism, of our filmmaking, and he finally said, you guys really need to get into narrative films. I'd be happy to support you with that. And so we were waiting for the right thing to come along. And we had several scripts, and we had written a couple, and just it wasn't right. And I know I'm in Sedona, so I can say this, but I truly feel that this film was divinely channeled. It came through us. It was not from us. And we just heard the call and did what there was to do, and thank God JP was there to support us in doing that. And also, by the way, we ran out of money, and if it weren't for Mark Sims, we wouldn't be here right now, and this film wouldn't be getting finished. So thank you very much, Mark.
I would also like to, real quick shout out, Darius, I know I was harassing you guys for getting the film so late, but give it up for Darius Fisher. Worked literally all night last night to make sure we had a version of the film to show today, and we are very, very grateful for that.
Yes. I have one last question. I'd like to ask Che a question. Che.
I just want to say one other thing about JP.
Yeah.
One thing about JP that's very important, JP's also a U.S. veteran. So when he understood that the movie had to do with veterans' issues,
he was a
and
yes.
PTSD especially,
Yes.
he was very supportive.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, yeah. Che.
Che, how can people, you're a water protector. Once a water protector, always a water protector. How can people support water protectors now?
I think the best way you can support water protectors is to talk about it. The number one thing, and we saw that a lot with the Standing Rock movement, and it's not just water protection in North Dakota, but water rights amongst indigenous people and tribal nations all across the country existed for a long, long time. This is just the first one that has grabbed this much attention, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But what the best thing, when people have asked me that question in the past, the best thing you can legitimately do is talk about it. We have to educate. We have to talk about it. These are tough conversations. These are trying and challenging times that we're in, but it's also a great time for transition and change. And I believe that. I truly believe that. And it was my time at Standing Rock and working with other indigenous issues that have brought this to light, that more and more people are coming forward. More and more people are asking what is going on. When I was going to Standing Rock, right? I currently live in Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm not from there, but that's where I live, and that state is a state that doesn't really concern itself with very many indigenous issues. I think less than 1% of the entire state is Native American, and so when this whole thing was going on, and I was able to. And then things were coming out on social media, and things were coming out on independent journalism. And we saw things coming out in documentaries and news clips on, even though we had a massive miss when it comes to major media on Standing Rock, we did have a little bit of exposure. And I had so many people, once they found out that I was there, and once they found out why was I taking so much time off of work, it started a conversation. And I was able to sit there and educate people as best as I possibly can. And at the least, it got them interested to where they can go do their own research. Because it's like, I don't want you to take my word for it. I don't want you to take what I say for it. Go do your own research. Go look at it. Read up on these laws. Educate yourself. Understand what's going on with these water issues. Because it's not just at Standing Rock, North Dakota. That was the Cannonball River that fed into the Missouri River that fed 70 million people downstream. It wouldn't have just affected the Standing Rock Sioux. It would have affected all of us. And so it's one of those things. The indigenous people we headed this one specifically, but it involved everybody and everyone in this room as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And
Thank you guys so much for sharing this film. Very important topic. Pat, I guess we can all be
come out,
in the
grab a
lobby,
glass,
drinks.
get a glass of wine, a glass of beer. They're all going to be out on the red carpet and mingling with you. Thank you all so much. Give it up, Heartland, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all so very, very much.